who is going to be taking minutes this time? No, I'm hurt. Oh, damn. I used my allocation this IETF meeting, haven't I?
John actually changed text or was put in inline comments?
He changed some. There was some inline comments as well, yes. Hold on. Okay, good afternoon on this very cloudy Friday in Dublin. Thank you for coming to the second email core session. Who will take notes? Thank you, John. That's very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat note wells and where we are with the documents. We're just continuing with the list of issues. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of, I know Barry is not going to be here. I'm hoping that Pete will join us. Can you go and grab him? Okay, I'll just wait 2 more minutes to see if somebody else can join us, and then we'll start. We'll continue with going through the base spec. Yes, John. John Clancy, did you want to say something, or are you just preparing for the slides? Oh, excellent. Can direct Pete back in.
I was captured in the ball.
Okay. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so John Clancy says he's saying something. He needs to disconnect and reconnect. Okay, I'll just give him a moment. So yes. John Clancy, are you back? Okay, let's keep going then. Hopefully John Clancy can hear us. Hello.
I can hear you, and I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Nice. Okay. Okay. Then we'll. Right. So next issue is there is a text saying that some older clients used to send extra information in hello and a hello as a second parameter, and text saying should not send it. I suspect most of the servers will not accept it anyway. So I think proposal is to straighten the should not to must not, because I don't actually. It doesn't mean that this doesn't exist in the wild, but I think a lot of servers will fail this should not. Any objections to, and then I think John Clancy said that if we do that, then we should clarify that we'll make such old clients non-conformant, just to be explicit. But I think that's fine. Okay, can I have some, show your hands if you're awake. Okay, excellent. Baseline, show your hand if you agree with this change. Okay, so half hands, okay. Okay, and John half, okay, done. This is overwhelming consensus for this working group, so I'll just. Yeah, anybody objects to this change? Okay.
I don't have an objection. I have a question. I just looked at the grammar for 2821. Doesn't even look like that was allowed in the original grammar. Was this just something clients decided to do on their own?
No idea.
As the slide says, we actually established this as a practice in 2821, having to do, if my memory serves me correctly, at this early hour, with some supplemental information. I think largely having to do with supplying both the IP address and the name. And then we later decided it wasn't such a hot idea and took it back out at 5321. And now we're debating closing that loop.
Okay. All right. So I think my feeling from the room, not strongly overwhelming, but just let's make this change, make it must not. Right. So this is a couple of related suggestions from Don Lake from his review. Basically complaining that section 6.1 and 6.2 use terms like frivolous, which is not very well defined. He suggested some changes. Let me actually show you the second slide as well. Did people have a chance to read this one? So yeah, I think section 6.2 is talking about cases when you will need to deliver no bounds, like anti-spam type thing, or phishing protection and stuff. He suggested some small tweaks. So, Pete?
First a question, then a comment. That my question is, was this text originally in 2821, or was the text that is currently in there, or was this attempt number 2? Because I have memory of trying to come up with these words from long, long ago, and none of it is good. We all sort of agreed that we wanted to say, don't do stupid things, but come up with a way to say that in the document. And this is what we had. I'm wondering how old this text is. John, do you have a memory of, or maybe have a diff, whether this was introduced in 5321 or what this one is?
I'm busy checking my my notes, but my recollection is very similar to yours, that at one point or another, I just don't remember when, we struggled with this multiple times and came to the conclusion that what we had was probably the least obnoxious. But give me a minute to check.
And, you know, so my reaction to Don's suggestion is, yeah, that sounds nice. I kind of like it. And what we don't want to do, though, is put in Don's text and then realize sometime down the road, crap, it doesn't cover what we were trying to, what we made this horrible mess of text to cover. So I'm a little ambivalent about it, but Don's text looks okay. I'm not horrified by it. And the only thing that even gives me pause is there's a must not in there, right? If this were just some advice to implementers, I'd say take Don's text immediately.
Yeah, not okay. Go on.
Okay. We did muck with this in 2821, including adding all of what is now 6.2. We mucked with it some more in 2021, about a year ago. So, you know, Pete's recollection is correct, and I have my usual fear of dropping something in here and it's using side effects or saying something we didn't mean, or even more likely, not saying something we did. And I can tell you more, but it would take 15, 20 minutes of research.
All right.
I have that sort of puppy dog looking at 45-degree angles, thing about must not be accidentally lost. How do you establish a strong interoperability constraint on an accident?
Right.
So I don't know. But John points out that this was not present in 821, but it was added in 2821, which is what, 20 something years old, and this text hasn't bothered anyone in all that time. I don't feel strong that this is a real problem, but I'm happy to support whatever the working group decides to do here.
Yeah, I think the good point is if somebody asks what must not frivolous must not lose the message for frivolous reasons would mean and how we test for compliance with this. But I think the rest of the section kind of explains what we mean by this. Is this something that we can defend?
I mean, I also have a general problem with our edition of frivolous. Like, what is that? Is that crap code that we're trying? Don't write crappy code?
Yes.
Really?
In some sense, this is a look. There are traps here which are easy to fall into, and if you are sloppy, you are going to get yourselves into big trouble mess. And if that's really all we wanted to say, then I can think of even easier ways to say it than Donald has, but they might be considered obnoxious.
Right. I mean, frivolous is kind of also eye of the beholder. Exactly what you call a frivolous software decision might be slightly different than mine. So
yes,
I don't know.
I don't. As Pete said, this is a don't be stupid warning.
I think some of it is, if you accepted the message,
you're responsible for it.
You're responsible, and you have to commit it to, persistent storage, which was one of Donald's suggestions, actually.
That's way more concrete than either the use of frivolous or must not be accidentally lost. So, okay.
So, do we want to say, okay, Todd?
But what if the persistent storage is the item that fails between the time the message is taken responsibility for by the next host in the chain? I mean, I don't even like this suggestion here that I don't see. Here's my thing. I don't see the big boys writing each message to disk, waiting for the next hop to take responsibility for it. And the little guys that might write it to disk are the ones most at risk of a disk failure. And they may be in a situation where they don't even have mirroring of that disk. So I don't understand how we can mandate this.
Right.
Or
You
at
must
least the
not-
example doesn't make sense.
This almost translates to your persistent storage must never fail.
Right.
Well, and we know that we cannot guarantee
Right.
this because, well,
Right.
But then again, do we even need must not though?
I don't think so.
Bron,
Having written systems to
Oh.
deal with this,
closer to
Yeah.
Mike.
having written systems to deal with this, it's not, you have to have 10 nines of availability on your data storage. It's that if you have a scheduled reboot once per day, you don't throw away messages as just a factor of your scheduled reboot. That's what it means. It means design as if you're planning to keep the message, not you must have a supercomputer with 10 levels of secure
Okay.
storage.
So,
Yeah.
do we have a better text than what we have? Todd?
I was just going to suggest, okay, then write what Braun said rather than write what is shown on the slide here. To make sure that your system is designed so for maintenance and whatnot, so that things aren't lost during maintenance schedules. Because this, as it's written right now, this reads, "Don't ever have a disk failure," and that's just not practical.
Bron, can I task you with writing some text, then we can discuss on the mailing list?
I say make Braun and Todd do it.
Okay,
Fair enough.
Bron and Todd. Okay, please minute this. Excellent. Okay, fine. And then the next one. Yeah, this is a suggestion to change requires that message can be delivered to.
I'm sorry, I jumped
Oh
in
yeah,
a little bit
sorry.
late.
Do you want the previous slide?
Previous slide, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already got all these weasel words here. Insofar as practical, accidentally. Why isn't this just a should not?
Because if it were a should not, someone whose name might or may not be Donald Eastlake would show up and say, well, if you're going to say should not, please explain all the conditions under which you cannot do that. If I sound mildly disgusted with this paragraph, I'm more than mildly disgusted.
Well, okay, disk failure or something like that. But I mean, when you create a must not, you're creating a compliance requirement, and we've already talked about the fact that words, that insofar as practical is not something that you can write a compliance requirement against.
I look forward to the text from Braun and
Yeah. If Bron and Todd can write it without a normative
I'm going
language.
to write some text that doesn't say should not, because should not is bullshit. Should not is you say, I decided not to implement this.
Yeah, right.
I just
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
messages away. You can't say should not. You say a must. The
But-
same with anything. Must doesn't mean if a satellite takes out your data center, if a meteoroid takes out your data center, your data's got to be secure, right? There's conditions.
Right. Okay, fine.
We're not the police.
Okay, that's very exciting for Friday afternoon. Okay, so next slide. Any objections to this suggestion on the slide?
They're going to work on
No, this is a separate sentence. Well, yes. I think Donald was slightly triggered by the use of lowercase requires here. So he suggested an alternative. Any objections to this proposal? Were you holding your nose?
One of the problems with Donald's comments taken as a group is that one of the things that this ugly document already suffers from is an odd mixture of my style, pastel style, Partridge's style, Braden's style, and various stuff which we've stuffed in at various points. And one of the difficulties with a considerable number of Eastlake's comments taken as a group is that it's adding in Eastlake style. And I wish we had rewritten this 20 years ago. So no specific complaints, but
Okay. In the interest of time and seeing lots of excited faces, not really, no. Can I just suggest you swap the word and we move on, and then, okay, thank you.
please minute that and I will do it.
Sorry, I made you do it. Is it okay? Right. I think I will. So this issue is, we basically have a section 3.7 and various subsections talking about mail gateway and talking about various aspects of them in as requirements and recommendations. And then we have Appendix D, which says other considerations, and just kind of reminds us that if you don't have a clear separation between envelope and headers, you might get into troubles if, gateway into some systems. So suggestion by, and actually next slide shows you what exactly in Appendix D. Basically, Donald said, why is it in two places? We have a very weak justification by saying that section 3.7 and subsections is more normative, even though this one has a should. This is more informative. On the other hand, I think consistency in having all the text about gateways in one place is good. Suggestion is to make Appendix D section 3.7.6. If we don't want to renumber appendices, then we can put some text in D, just saying that, maybe there used to be text here, it's over there, or something like that. Pete.
So I will momentarily channel my inner Dave Crocker and then disagree with him. I think part of the reason Appendix D appeared in the first place is because Dave, I think with some reasonable justification, said all of these gatewaying issues should be in an appendix. And some of them got left in 3.7.6 because we decided, oh, those ones are important that you're going to have to deal with, in a regular SMTP implementation, and these ones aren't so important. And so his move would have been to take all of 3.7 and move it down to an appendix, and this is what we ended up with. But I think, so now disagreeing with my inner Dave Crocker, because I don't think that's a bad idea. But now that we're at where we're at, I think moving this Appendix D back up into 3.7.6 is fine. I think it solves the problem. We don't do a whole lot of rearranging of text. This is the smallest, easiest change to make. And unless there's a really good justification for leaving this in the appendix, you know, it's commentary. As far as renumbering the appendices, I do not care.
Okay, John?
I don't think I care about renumbering the appendices. I think I agree with Pete's analysis with the addition of the reason why this was separated is precisely because the stuff that we put in line has some normative statements in it, and this doesn't or shouldn't. But if we don't mind agreement by exhaustion, I'm exhausted about this.
Okay, well,
I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm exhausted.
Can you at least explain why you don't think it's a good idea? Because this is not normative to an SMTP implementation?
Partly that, partly channeling my inner Dave Crocker, which is far more difficult than you're doing so. I'm just very reluctant to start messing with things at this point. I've looked at making this move. It doesn't look problematic, but the possibility of your trusty editor screwing up is certainly not zero. So my only condition on this is we do it and somebody check is if people are willing to check it carefully afterwards.
sure. Okay, Jim?
Maybe this is a slightly different issue, but the last sentence, there's a must there that to me reads to be a normative must. And I wonder if it should be capitalized.
No, well, for some gatewaying, you just cannot guarantee this, so. It's more on the design of implementations. Yeah, you cannot test it.
Yeah, just to say what we were saying off mic, I don't think that's normative because that's not a testable normative statement. That's just you got to know this. It doesn't need the word must in there to be a sensible thing, right?
Okay, so speaking as a participant from the floor, if we don't move it, I think it would be nice to have cross-reference to 3.7, just because. So John, if you don't mind moving it, let's try this. I think I have a weak preference from Pete, Ken, and myself, and Murray for moving the text. If that's okay with you, let's try this and we'll carefully check it.
Okay.
Thank you. So this one actually, despite okay, roll back. I'll tell the background, and I think the solution actually is hopefully is simple. Basically, Don Lake said that the way we describe response codes kind of looks like IAN registration procedure for a registry. Why don't we create a registry? And then John Clancy explained that the reason why we didn't create a registry is because we didn't want to encourage future registrations in the first place. This agrees with my recollection as well. Looking at number of new response codes, reply codes that were added since the original spec was one reply code that you folded into this document, John. And the only other one, or maybe two, are related to SMTP auth, which is kind of special animal anyway. I don't really, and John commented saying that we prefer that the existing reply codes being used and people use register new enhanced status codes if they need more specific meaning. John?
Yeah, there's another issue here, which is evidenced by a section we had to add, making fine differentiations between two relatively newer than 821 reply codes. And that is that this stuff is structured enough that if a new code is added, the odds of needing extensive text to differentiate it from the old codes and split appropriate hairs, make those part of the definition, is very high based on experience. And my other difficulty with an IANA registry is somebody comes along 5 years from now, after this discussion has been mostly forgotten and I've tuned out, and says, let's institute a new reply code. How about 475? And this, even if we make this standards track, I'm not confident about the review process. I'm not confident about getting all the differentiation right. And this is just fraught with opportunities for screw ups. In addition to the fact that a new reply code is, unless it comes in with a completely new and orthogonal to everything else extension, a new reply code is fairly likely to invalidate existing implementations or leave us in a state where some implementations are using the old reply code, or 3 of them, and the new one and newer ones are using new ones. This is really just an opportunity for incompatibilities. And this, of course, is part of the reason for the argument in favor of using the extended codes rather than adding new ones.
Okay. Pete?
In case you just need an additional voice, I really object to making the change Don suggests. We should leave this in the document. We would have done this as a registry had the world been a different place long ago. It's not that place. As I like the quote, if things were different, they wouldn't be the same. I grant the point. Things are this way. Let's move along.
Yeah.
If the original author had been sympathetic to this idea, he would have taken off his author hat and his RFC editor hat and put it on his IANA hat and done it.
Okay. Right. Actually, I did talk to Donald, and I talked to him about this specific issue. I think we basically agreed to disagree, and I think he was okay with us making different decisions. So, so yes, no change. But at least, if this comes up again, then we say we actually did deliberately make this decision. And, we'll have a ticket and discussion to prove
it. I could add a sentence here saying more explicitly that people should go for extended codes rather than this, if that would make anybody happy. But I don't think it's either necessary or desirable.
I think it would help, actually. As in, this is the useful background information of how we are approaching it. So, yeah, if you add a sentence, please do.
Okay, please make a reminder in the minutes, or I will forget this.
Enhanced status codes.
Yeah, just say something about enhanced status codes, and we'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, recommend use of enhanced code instead. Yeah, thank you. Right. So this is partially my fault, partially John's fault. There is in IANA consideration, there is some text suggesting improvements to the IANA registries. My suggestion as author of MT priority extension is to actually take the text out because, well, considering the general desire not to reference extensions that much, and also I don't think this will age very well. I suggest, so I looked at the sections, titles of subregistries. I suggested one change from priority to empty priority in one place. I can probably, as author of the extension, go directly to Ayana and ask for this change, but maybe, Murray, maybe we can do it as a management item just to kind of minute it. I mean, in my experience, well, that was when I was on ISG, but Ayana was very flexible. Say, well, if you say, can we rename this subsection, they were very receptive to this, but maybe if we want to have a trace for how we got there, maybe do it management item.
I'm sure they would be thrilled to just take a management item, say, thank you, it's in the minutes, it's recorded somewhere, on we go.
Okay. John?
The reason why this text is there is that in some early version, which may or may not have been posted, of this thing, it was not there. And I had a discussion with Ayana, and Ayana said, I don't remember who, it may have been Michelle, this was a long time ago. Ayana said, you're rearranging all of these other registries. Please tell us what to do about this one. So I agree with everything that's been said, but the reason why this text is there is because Ayana told me to put it in.
Okay. So I think suggestion is John, the note taker, will minute that will ask Murray to do a management item, renaming one subregistry, and then this text will be taken out. Is that okay? I mean, like, it can be taken out during RFC editing, but I don't think it will age well anyway.
We can take it out. If Ayana objects to taking it out, then we have a separate discussion.
Okay. Yeah, but it's kind of like the base spec that avoids referencing extensions. Have an Ayana action on one of the extensions. It's just a bit weird. I'm not going to lose sleep over this one way or the other. It's just, I don't think it will age well. So that's.
How do I make sure I don't forget?
Well, if we have it in minutes, and Todd and I will send you email after, and you do management item now. Okay, fine. I think we have a plan. So, John Clanson, you can wait for a management item to be actioned before taking this out. So. If you want, or you can take it out. I don't think we'll forget now.
Yeah, I had a faint hope of actually being able to come away from today and spend the weekend getting 5321 bis into a state where we could handle it back to Murray with all the comments and placeholders and wait for is taken out. But it sounds like that's gone anyway.
Okay, thank you. Right. This is my last slide on 5321 bis. I would summarize this as Donald Eastlake noticed potentially inconsistent terminology in one of the sections. And I think John and I said, oh, meh. As in, either somebody have to go and read through this section and make sure it's completely consistent, but it doesn't seem like the existing text confused people. So,
Well, the other part of this is that Don's assertion that only one mail buffer is active at a time, or whatever he said, turns out not to be quite correct. And
Right.
that's, again, one of the reasons why this document gets circuitous at times. But
yeah, and then you correctly pointed out that chunk is used in some extensions, so it gets potentially quite confusing to touch this. Does anybody want to go and read this and make sure it's needs to, okay. I see hands shaking. No, nobody wants to do this. Okay.
thank you.
Yes, I think on this one I agree. Let's just, you know, keep it as is. Okay. Any other issues that people know of on?
We might spend a little bit of time talking about the references to extensions and security and various other things. There's proposed new text in the draft I posted last night. There's a whole different strategy in the notes that Tiro posted, although some of that is going to need tuning if we use it, and we need to figure out what we want to do. What I put in the draft last night is an extended version of, I think, what Pete and I were talking about yesterday, and what I've been talking about ever since I realized that might be a solution, which is that I vastly extended the discussion of the applicability statement in the introductory material, said explicitly that the document does not talk about extensions and their security implications, and their security implications coming along with the extensions, which it doesn't talk about. It explicitly says that once upon a time, there was an SMTP model that didn't deal with any of this, and things have changed. And then in the security considerations appendix, it reiterates some of that a little bit and talks specifically about those issues, and then points back to the longer material in the introduction. And I think that avoids our having to tangle with the extension stuff at all, which I think is a good thing. And as I explained in one of my notes, it also contributes to making 5321 BISC quite a bit more stable, which I think is in the community's long-term best interests.
Pete?
So my reaction when reading your changes was I had some inclination to put what you put in the introduction just directly into security considerations instead. I think it could go either place. But let's remember that part of what's driving this is the security folks kind of said there's not enough in there for us. There was plenty in there for this room, I think, and we don't have the appropriate security people sitting in this room. I think if you moved it into security considerations and Alexi and Murray could take that over to the security folks, most importantly, the security AD, who I think I mentioned yesterday, didn't seem all that excited about going as far as some of his compatriots. I think that might solve the problem. And if they push back and say it needs even a little more, maybe something along the lines of what Tara was talking about, then it's a pretty straightforward addition. Is there a reason you think it really belongs up in that introduction?
Let me answer your let me answer your first question before the second one. Paul and I have had a discussion about this partly I think off list. And it comes down to if we get a strong and clear reference in the security considerations section, we'll be okay. And it does that. And if we get a clear explanation as to why that stuff isn't in this document, it will be better than just okay. So I think we're all right as is. Now, let's come back to the question why we split this. In the process of looking at this, I realized that there are extensions out there in the IANA registry, some of which we may never hear from again, that also raise issues which we might want to discuss in the applicability statement or some future successor to the applicability statement that have absolutely nothing to do with security. They may have to do with sanity, good sense, and a variety of other things like that, but they're not per se security issues unless you extend the definition of security issues to say that anything which is done which is stupid is a security issue. And I prefer not to go there. So the reason for putting this into the introduction is that there was text there about the applicability statement, which was basically one sentence of hand waving, and arguably not a very good idea anyway, as was a sentence hand waving. And I really want to future-proof this document as much as possible. So that was the reasoning.
That okay? I think actually we need a roadmap for email. We have IPsec roadmap document, which actually lists all the documents that are related to IPsec and tells you, this is bad idea, don't do it. This is good idea, this is standard, this is stuff. And looking at this, I think that would be one of the things that we should actually do after we have finished here, to create an email roadmap, listing all the RFCs related to email and say which of those are good idea, which are bad idea, and which are, okay. And that would actually make it also in a sense that if especially if we group them there a little bit in the roadmap to say that these are security related, these kind of things, this actually will make it a future-proof thing we are talking about, because then we would always say that, okay, if you want to find out, anything related to email, go to the roadmap, and roadmap can be updated every, time there's significant need for that. It's going to be more likely, not a living document, but document that can be updated like every 10 years when you have lots of more new stuff out there, and so on. And when I was creating the list of security protocols, I was really concerned, should I actually include, for example, SPF, because I think the SPF is really bad idea. Nobody should be implementing it. But unfortunately, standard track, if it would not be in standard track, I would have immediately left it out. but I decided because it was in applicant statement and it's a standard track document, I left it in. But so what documents to list there is just, but that's why I was saying it's example list of, other protocols, extensions, whatever related to security.
This is exactly the reason why I don't want to start listing these extensions in documents. And that roadmap was suggested either on list or the ticket tracker a couple of times, and certainly let's not block this work doing that.
And Tara just said, yes, I agree. And I just want to mention that in some way, the AS is halfway to that roadmap, right? I mean, that's sort of why we did it in the first place, is to give, operational implementation instruction, but also how these things get put together. So I think, yes, if you have the reference to the AS in security considerations with, big stars around it saying, look over here, that's where the security roadmap is, and we, put that information in the AS, we should be fine. Again, the question of what that reference looks like, whether it's normative, whether it's informative, and all that, I leave to Murray, tossing his cookies one way or the other on it.
Burning some scrolls.
I'll leave it to Murray to have have at it. But yeah, if it doesn't seem quite satisfactory, I think it's okay to put a few more sentences in security considerations to get it over the line for the security folks who want it really clear that there's something that needs to be done here.
Okay. Pete said everything I wanted to say.
Okay, people who have not done so should look at the new text and make comments and suggestions to the mailing list. People have looked at new text, maybe you should look at it again and make comments and suggestions on the mailing list. But it sounds like this is where we're going.
I made a suggestion in the Zulip chat about how you might resolve the thing that's still on the screen. I don't know if that's helpful, along with some other sarcastic stuff.
Yes. So Murray suggested for the terminology thing, right?
For this, how to resolve the chunk block.
Yes. The previous topic.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm happy to do it, and like the AS is the right place for it. I'm glad that's already started. Totally supportive of that solution too. I didn't mean to frighten Ken by saying let's deal with it in Mailmate, because you've already started it. So.
And I want to express strong agreement with your next to last comment in the chat.
Okay, I think we have a plan. I'm sure we'll have probably a few little things remaining once you update the document that we just need to just sanity check all the tickets, and I'll try to with Todd to go and review and close tickets which are already addressed. And yes.
The whole reason I got up to the mic before, I have been talking to Paul about the whole security thing, and he agrees with the plan we have about. Let me see if I can remember exactly. All the normative security stuff lives in the AS. This document refers normally to the AS, but does not need to contain any of it directly. It's just the cluster, like that solution. He's fine with that.
Did you say normatively though?
I think that he said, yeah, like this needs to refer normatively to that, so that you get you can say in this protocol, this is unprotected. That is not, or this is open. This protocol by itself gives you mail in the clear. On the modern internet, if you're sending out stuff out of the modern internet, that's a bad idea. Over there, you'll find instructions about how to fix this, or how to, the extensions that you need to make this happen.
And to a first order approximation, that's already now.
I will support the downriff, yes. Oh, it's already a cluster.
Well, it was already. It was always intended. We never intended to publish this before AS is done.
That's why you haven't seen an approval for 5322 bis yet. It's hanging. I'm holding on to it. So.
Okay.
Is that all right with everybody, or like we don't like you have a question about it has to be normative?
Yes, I think if we can get away with informative, that would be slightly easier. But I think some people said that if that's the way it has to be, we'll be okay with it.
Well, no. So I'll offer you this: if you want, if there's strong feelings that we should try to put it through as informative, then do that, and we can. It's a fast discuss fix if that's what happens.
That would be my preference, along with parent.
Okay, I'll back that up too.
Okay. Fine. And if this this is not normative comes up, then we say, okay, fine, we'll switch. So without, as in like, okay, well, make
Plan for living with it.
Yeah, make to feel ISG they got an easy win. Sorry, I didn't say anything.
I will have to drag kicking and screaming into making this normative, but you could use a grease track.
Okay.
That imagery.
Okay, I think we have a plan.
Okay, question about the meta plan.
Yeah.
Do you want another draft which incorporates changes from today? Do you want that draft soon, or do you want that draft after we see the additional new text in the report from yesterday? Or shall I just wait until all this stuff stabilizes and then produce a draft?
Um, I think having something quickly so that I can close various tickets, I think would be useful. But I appreciate that some things are unresolved, like hello and a hello, and a few other things that like text that Bron and Todd are writing. This might wait for another revision. Is it all right?
Again, I'll do whatever you tell me to. My instinct after this discussion is to at least wait for the text from Braun and company, because that is maybe critical. But again, I'm happy to produce a draft now and another draft when that shows up.
Like I reviewed you.
I'm worried at this point that producing too many drafts too quickly may create confusion. But again, I'm flexible.
Yeah. Bron is tentatively saying he will text by the end of the session. So how about if you get all the necessary texts by Monday, try to incorporate it. If you don't, do a new revision anyway.
Okay.
And then I can like close probably 2/3 of tickets, and then
Yeah.
at least it will, well, it make me feel better about our progress, right?
not as much better as it make me feel.
Okay. Tero?
Yeah, you asked me to remind you about 421.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, so to be honest, I think I probably need to open a ticket. I don't know. I wasn't quite. I didn't have enough time to digest your issue, and you didn't propose any specific text.
So we have several temporary errors in SMTP, and the behavior for each of these errors is different, but we don't actually explain anywhere how they are different, because it's very different whether you say that the mailbox is full. That means that there's no point of trying to next MX. There's no point of trying to send the next email to the same person, most likely, because his mailbox is still full. But it's very beneficial to send an email to the other person who are in the same server. If the server says, I'm going down, there's no point of even trying to send you to send mails to that machine if that's the only MX that went down. And it's very beneficial to move to next MX, try that one, and try the next MX, and so on. And if only all of them say they are going down, then you probably say, okay, I will wait for 5 minutes and try again. I shouldn't be trying immediately again. And there's like several years ago, there was very bad interaction with one of the big players in the world who returned it 421 error saying, I'm going down, when the mail looks like a spam. Which means that, send mail, of course, always try the next MX, which says 421, next MX 421, next MX 421, and then it decided, okay, now I push everything that is going to that domain on the side and take the next domain and start sending mail to that. Which was not very efficient way of doing, because every 15 minutes it tried to send one email and get the same error every time, because it did accept other emails to the same domain, if they didn't look like spam, but it immediately hit the spam mail. And I realized that we don't have any description there. And I think we should have, for temporary errors, we should have this is per user error. It's useful to try other users in this domain. This is the whole domain now. Don't try to send it. This is temporary as I said, 421, I'm going down. There's no point of trying to immediately with the different user or something. So I think we should have text there for temporary errors telling what is the expected thing for the sender to do when he gets this error message. You can, as I said, that there's a text saying that's 450 or something says that mailbox is full or something like that. That indicates it's probably per user, but we don't have any definitive stuff.
Okay. Todd?
I read Tara's email this morning, and I just don't think it's possible to do what you're asking. One, I think what you're asking requires a uniform application of the error codes in SMTP by each mailbox provider, and that just, I think real world experience proves it doesn't happen. Two, I think the text regarding the first number of the reply code, whether it's a 4 or 5, I think that's clear on what to do. They basically boil down to, if it's a 4, this message might be accepted at a later time, so you feel free to go ahead and try again. 5, there's no way this message is going to be accepted in its current state. But how that is retries or implemented on the sending side based on the reply code or the text in the reply code is just, that's a fool's errand, I think. I don't think we're going to have any success there.
But the problem is that mails, you know, implementations do implement them differently. As I said, SendMail does very different thing for 421 and 450, which means that there is already implementations who are doing processing this error message differently. And I don't think we need to say, yeah, must do this and should do. We should say that, okay, this is meant to be used in this kind of situation, and you should try. Actually, I think we should have a should level, you know, things there. It doesn't mean that any of the implementations needs to be changed, because I mean, you can always, you have already done this way. That's a good, you know, use for violating the should. But I think we should have, you know, text there saying that you should use this email or this error code if it's per user error. You should use this email only if or this error code if it's only for the whole server or something like that. And whether we actually moving to next MX or not is something that actually is useful for the, you know, sender side to know.
Fair, but I don't think that it's, I don't think we can document that in this document.
Why not?
Because
it's
just
write text.
You have opinions on what the proper response should be given a certain error code based on an experience you had some number of years ago. I don't even know, is it a current problem?
No, they're not returning that error code anymore.
Okay. So I'm not clear on the need to document a solution to a problem that may not exist.
The problem is that they used that error code because it looked like, okay, this is going to be causing most of the trouble to the, you know, spammers. I think that was the reason they picked that error code.
But it had some unexpected side effects from other users.
So
right?
somebody else might do yes, if I say I'm shutting down, so they don't try to send us any email ever. But I don't think that actually gives you very bad interaction in the general if we don't give any guidance. I think we should give some guidance how to process this. Even if the old implementations, actually, I think we could also check out, you know, a couple of the other email, what different mail implementations actually do when they receive these error codes. And I think there's like a couple of those are like SendMail, Postfix, couple of, you know, 3 or 4, and see if they have a different, you know, way of processing those. And I think we could probably then find out whether it's actually, if there's, I think there is probably is quite, you know, similar processing most of those. Do you move next MX or not?
There is text in 5321 regarding 421 that says a server can issue that response code after any command. So I wouldn't anticipate that there would be a uniformity of issuance of 421 as a response code, so that we could even write guidance as a uniformity of behavior in response to receiving a 421.
Oh, it says that when you are shutting down, when you are killed, you should try to send that.
There is text otherwhere in 5321 that says, after detecting the need to shut down the SMTP service and return a 421 response code. This response code can be issued after the server receives any command.
Yes. But the question is, when you receive that 421, do you move to next MX? Do you try next MX?
Maybe.
I think you should, because it.
Okay.
Okay, let me clarify a bit of history here. These codes were introduced before MX records were introduced. This is all first generation 821. For whatever reason, the codes were not revisited when Partridge introduced the MX records. When this came up in the 1123 discussions, the decision was made to a first order approximation matching Todd's comments of don't go there. If we try to put this into 5321, we will delay 5321 by months as we argue about this, and we will probably get it wrong. And that's different from what Todd said, but equivalent. If we wanted to do something here, and I think we probably don't, but if we want to do something here, the right thing to do would be to put a section in the applicability statement which says, you know, we've done a survey of existing implementations, and some do this, and some do that, and some do the other thing, and you should at least be aware of the differences. And that's, you know, more or less consistent with what Todd has said. It is not normative, it's explanatory. But whether it's worth the trouble, I have mixed feelings. But as far as 5321 is concerned, it's about 30 years too late.
Okay. So I was actually, I think some people suggested this. I'm not sure explaining the differences will work out, but I think if we want to do some text, let's try to do this for AS. And if we can agree on something along the lines of what John just said, describing various situations and that the implementation might be different, then.
Yeah, I think that's potentially useful and at worst harmless. It may not be worth the effort.
I agree with doing it in the AS. I don't really want to debate that part. The part that I'm curious about is I've always, and I don't have the text in front of me, and maybe someone can point me to where the ambiguity is, if there really is one, or if this is just a matter of some people happen to do it different ways, and maybe we should or shouldn't document this. But my understanding is that the text has always said, if you can't deliver direct to the lowest MX, try to get it closer. And that's pretty unambiguous to me. So I'm puzzled about why this is even a debate.
I think implementation do differ in how they handle fallback. And it's not super, it's affect how quickly the message will arrive, but it's kind of hard thing to test for compliance.
I understand. I think that,
well, there is no text on compliance,
what
but if there were.
What I'm implementation about it, I get that there are different implementations do it different ways. But if we just go down the path of we better document every weird thing that someone chose to do, even if the document that we're managing here is unambiguous, that's a bottomless pit. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, quickly, and let's move on to the other document, all right?
So I think the main difference is, for example, if the mailbox is full, there's no point of sending it to next MX. Because currently the next MX is going to give the same error message saying mailbox is full. Most likely they said currently almost all of them are actually doing that. Because the MX are not really anymore fallbacks. They are really, multiple servers. That's why at least what I am seeing, it says that if you get the mailbox is full, you get that from all the single MXs. And I got to queue it up in my place anyway. So why should I put it into the?
Okay. Very quickly, Bron, and we are moving on. Before Ken lose patience with me.
Yeah, I want to absolutely plus one that indirect mail flow is generally worse than direct mail flow. We're not in the 1970s. We don't want to encourage sending it off to yet another system that queues it. Hold on to it, send it to the first system as much as possible. I think we should discourage sending to backup MXs.
Well, take it to the mailing list, I reckon. Either way, I think there is a strong preference for any text. If it is to be added, it will be in AS. Okay. Right. With that, Ken. Aldra. So.
I assume you're going to open up a new issue against the AS and somebody will provide text?
Yes. So we'll open new issue for Teros ticket. I'll tag it with AS, and then we'll see what happens with that.
Okay, these slides are basically documenting what is new in version 12 of the draft, which was posted, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So hopefully some people have read it. If not, this is what we've done. Issue 40, we have removed DSNs from must support extension. We added the text, as you see there, that was provided by Mr. Clenson. And hopefully that is satisfactory. I'll give people a second to read that and then see if there's any comments.
Yeah. When speaking as an individual, when DSN was taken out, I was a bit sad, but a text saying encouraging use of DSN format is actually the main thing that is useful. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm expecting most people are going to read this offline and then comment on the list, but any comments on this at the moment? We'll move on to the next one. Okay. The whole percent of coding thing, John added another sentence to the end of this section, originally written by John Levine. I took John's, the last sentence of what John Levine originally wrote and broke it up into 2 bullets because I thought it was easier to read, but the content of those bullets are essentially what was already in the existing text. So hopefully this is fairly uncontroversial. Oh, John Levine has a comment.
The second bullet, I believe you got backwards. Doing IDNA conversion of the domain part is fine. It's doing the user part that's broken. So just,
Okay,
yeah, so just the mailbox part.
I'll go back and check. This may have been a copy and paste error from the text, but I'll double check. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was probably cut and paste from
It was one line
IDNA
sentence
document, and
yeah.
it's supposed to apply to local part, not to the main part.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's good that we're doing reviews and finding errors.
People actually are not asleep. They're reading what's on the slides. Excellent. Okay. Other than that, does this look okay?
Yep.
Beautiful. Next slide, please. We discussed this in Vancouver. Pete's suggestion was if we already have references to this stuff, why do we need to say anything more? John Clenson reminded me that there's basically 3 specs that cover internationalized email, so I added those. Hopefully this will satisfy that particular issue. And if it doesn't, please provide text. Can probably move on. Okay. Yeah, this one looks like I forgot to include the name change of this section. So this was about what to do with trace header fields when you're using an email. I think the original title of the section was handling trace header fields. It is now something along the lines of reuse of existing mail messages, I believe is what we called it, Pete.
Yeah.
Pete and I worked together on this, and hopefully this is satisfactory to what we're looking for.
I like this text as a participant.
Any other comments? Excellent. Okay, this is similar to what I showed in Vancouver. It was Dave Crocker's text, but we bashed it around a little bit in Vancouver, made a few changes. I probably should have highlighted what we changed, but this is exactly what was in the minutes and what we were supposed to change. So unless people have changed their minds on what we talked about in Vancouver, this should be pretty straightforward.
Looks fine.
Got a thumbs up from Murray. Got a nod from Pete, so I think we're in good shape here. All right, next. Okay, this one might need a little bit of discussion. This was use of quoted strings. This was bashed around on the list a little bit. When I talked to John Levine last week, or whenever I was working on this, he said, based on what was posted to the list, that we should just drop dealing with empty quoted strings and local parts. John, I don't know if you want to get up and give your reasoning behind that or no. I believe the discussion on the list, some of the examples that we had in there, one person on the list said that they are technically illegal, so there's no reason to show them in the text.
Yeah.
The other suggestion was to come up with a better received header example, and somebody
No,
asked
I
me to
think
talk
it's
to you
fine.
about it.
I think it's fine. When I saw the change, I was a bit surprised. I kind of like the empty local part not being interoperable examples. But I haven't checked ABNF whether they're actually legal. So I think
Okay. We can probably continue to bash this out on the list.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to put it back in, we
basically, yeah, I'll check if I can find an argument why it should be back. I'll make it. If not, I think this change is fine. Okay. The only other suggestion I was saying, because we have this text, empty quoted string display name is fine. Maybe add an example of something which is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Just.
You see Pete with a furrowed brow. Anything to say about this, Pete?
It causes problems for keywords. Why do you have the keywords example there?
I actually do not recall why that is there. I'll have to go back through and look at my notes.
I mean, the number of things that use keywords has got to be almost zero, but I don't think that's a good example of an interoperability problem. So I would just use a received line and be done with it.
Okay. Actually, I think I put an example in because the original text.
I think so.
You mentioned keywords, yes. Okay. If there's no objections removing that, I will certainly take that out.
Yeah, last, I think I was, it's not very scientific. I was checking some old IETF archives. I think last time I've seen keywords were around like early 2000. We use them all the time on UseNet. Okay. Well,
So just so you know, keywords is one of those places where the ABNF allows for like comma, right? Where you could have a list of things where one of the list elements doesn't exist. If you're going to handle that, you probably can handle empty quoted string too. And like you said, I mean, keywords in email have not been used frequently at all. I'm surprised it was early 2000s. I would have bet on 90s or earlier.
Okay, maybe late 90s.
But
okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terribly useful example to put in anyway. And, so why mention it?
Okay, fair enough. So we're going to leave the received example, take out keywords. Alexi, you're going to review the empty local part.
Yep.
Excellent.
Okay.
Next.
Minuted. Thank you.
Okay, I think that this is the end of changes that I made in dash 12, and this is the remaining open issues. John, I don't know if you have anything to say on this CNAME one?
Or have we resolved it with the two
Yeah.
changes in the base spec? Do we need to say anything at all about this?
Right. Do we still have John?
I think the key is to is for others to look at this and make the determination as to whether the changes in the base spec deal with this. My guess is they do, but that's a personal guess. It is not authoritative. And the answer as to why I haven't looked at this in the context of the applicability statement yet is lack of sleep. But I think Alexi's asked a real question.
Fair enough. We can let this one sit until people review the changes in 5321.
Alexi, either you or I should point out with 5321 that when they're reviewing that, they should look at this and whether or not anything is still necessary here.
Yeah, so we'll hold this ticket pending review of 5321 bis. And then we can just, people can read CNAME related stuff and see if anything needs to be done. Okay.
Sounds good. What do we have next? Again,
Me.
another open ticket. This one I'm throwing back at Alexi. Do you have any thoughts on it right now?
Again, I'll attempt to write some text, but yeah.
Okay. I think there's only one left on here. No. there's
Oh, yeah.
Two more.
So,
Yeah, John, I wasn't sure. I think you opened this up a couple weeks ago. I wasn't sure what the issue is. I think you probably opened up as a placeholder. Do you have anything further to say on it?
Again, this is falling through the cracks when I try to get 5321 business shape. But we've ended up, and there were discussions in at least one other, maybe two other working groups this week, which bear on this, which is the original multi-part model was pretty clear, and practice has evolved away from it quite a lot, and we may want to say something about that. It may be that this working group should suggest to Murray that there should be some other group charged with sorting this out, but I don't have much more to say about it today. I can explain it further if you want to take the time, but I didn't have much more to say about it today.
yeah, can you please explain? Because I think I created the ticket from your quick comment, but I didn't know what you meant by this. So yes, please do explain.
I'll have to go back and look at the original specs and my note, but we had a very clear model when mine was done about multi-part alternative, multi-part mixed, and multi-part alternative was much more about body part in English, body part in Chinese, body part in Russian, body part in Lower Slavonian, all of which were translations of each other. So the notion was you look at one, you don't look at the others. We're now seeing multi-part alternative used mostly for HTML versus text, which was not the idea. And it's complicated by the fact that in theory, if you went back to the multi-part alternative with different languages or character sets, that you could end up with wanting to each of those languages and character sets in both HTML and plain text. And that was result of what I think is technically known as a colossal mess. So insofar as we're looking at, we, the IETF, this working group, are looking at issues like internationalization and making that work. Some of that stuff needs to be rethought, redefined, maybe a new multi-part diddly thing created.
Actually, there is a new multi-part. I don't remember, translated or something like that. There was a new standard. Well, I can find out RFC numbers, so which is specifically for different language representations.
So
Yeah.
are we saying we're trying to discourage use of multi-part alternative for
Two-
anything other than different languages? Because IMEP relies on this.
Yeah, I think there is a heavy reliance now.
Far too late.
Okay.
Even if we wanted to, far too late.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that the horse is already out of the barn on this.
Yeah.
And John, I also just want to quickly disagree with that interpretation, because the example in 2046 is exactly text plain versus text enriched
Okay.
in a multi-part alternative. I think the idea was that they would somehow be semantically equivalent, which is, what you're describing with languages, but that's certainly the way Nathaniel and Ned had it in the first go round.
And I may be relying on conversations prior to first go round. In any event, the most we might do here is to comment on this, and probably given this recent discussion, we should avoid that rattle as well.
So if I hear you right, John, you're saying we should just close this and do nothing?
In the interest of getting on with this document, probably.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of
Because
doing that.
especially if there's a document about translation on standards track, this gets into scope problems and all sorts of other things. So I can feel an April 1st RFC coming on, but not a problem for this working group.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe this is the last one. Yes.
So,
Alexa, you want to discuss this one?
no. This is some of the comments raised by early discussion from Donald's sector review, and I think there was early suggestions to have some of this text in AS, but I'm not sure if any of this I think we probably should have a look whether existing text cover these points, and if we agree with them, or whether something we can add to security considerations in AS.
I don't recall what's currently in there.
John?
Yeah, in the light of what we've done to 5321 in this area, I think we need to go back and look at this. And I think we also need to go back and look at whether the text that's now in the AS covers all the things which 5321 bis says or implies ought to be in the AS. And this thing is just part of that more general problem. Having said that, getting into a discussion in the AS is, especially about nation state security agencies, is looking for trouble. And this gets us back to my original comments about the security stuff, and 06's original comments about needing a comprehensive overview mail document. But as I say, I think we need to take a careful look at this. But I think we're going to find out that some of the stuff we punted to the AS is stuff the AS should punt to some future working group or the wastebasket.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I'm confused by the first one of those. I have never seen client authenticated TLS used in SMTP. And so I don't see how the authenticity of the receive line could be assured at all. I mean, you're authenticating the server, not the source of the, not not the SMTP client.
I would make a general observation without being critical because his review has been immensely useful. That there are several things in parts of Don's review which indicate a profound lack of understanding about how email works on the contemporary internet.
Yeah, none of us are perfect.
Okay. Jim, do you have GitHub access?
Yes.
Can you go on this issue and comment, questioning whether the first one is even correct?
I'll put that in.
I think that would be just, if it's minuted, that would be great. But if you just go directly to the ticket, that would be
Good idea. I'll do
okay.
that.
Okay. And then we'll figure out if any of the other text belongs anywhere
Yeah,
else.
that's what I heard. We're going to essentially let this sit until we review the existing section and see if we've already got this covered. Is that the last slide, Alexei?
Yep.
Excellent. So looks like we closed maybe half, at least a third of what's on there, right?
Yeah, at the moment, the 5321 base has way more tickets than AS just because of all sector and DNS review. But I'm going to review and close a bunch of them. So,
All right, thank you.
right. And then tentatively, next step. So obviously, next step, John will stay. Well, John will do an update on the base spec and we'll get it as close as possible to being ready for ISG. Do we want to do an interim to hammer out the rest of AS stuff? Because I think it would be really good to get this done before race of ISG.
Fine by me, but I'm guessing it would probably have to be after the holidays for most people to. It's your call. I'm not going anywhere, so whenever.
Okay. John?
Just wanted to clarify, from my point of view, there is a future ID for 5321, which is ready for IESG. And that one has all the comments and notes torn out because we decided we're happy with it. We don't need those notes anymore.
Yes.
Anything else is sort of intermediate to ready for ISG for getting the working group closer to there.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not at a point where I think I'm ready to produce a ready for ISG draft on Monday.
Yes. Yes, I appreciate that. Yes, as close as you can get it. Yes. While keeping the notes in for the time being. And then we'll just review what remains. And then at some point, I will say, please produce a cleaner version without notes. And then I think we'll figure out the exact logistic, whether we ask ISG to review the cleaned up version now, or whether we wait for AS to be more ready. Murray? Do you have a preference whether we should send SMTP to ISG first and then AS second, or do we want to wait for it?
I suggest.
Yep.
I suggest sending it when it's ready. And if there's a reason to, if we discover during evaluation, oh shit, there's too much stuff in the AS that we might as well do these two together, I'll just hold it until the AS is available. And then we'll do them both in the same telechat.
Well, I think what you're saying, you will put it on telechat.
Yep.
We'll see what kind of feedback there is.
Yep.
If it clears the feedback, but you think there is still unclear relation with AS, you will hold it.
I'll hold it until I can get them on the same telechat, right? So,
Well, do
like,
you
if the
mean that
presence-
bringing them, bring it back to the ISG second time type thing?
Oh, it may not need a second ballot.
Okay.
Let's just say we'll do them serially, and they may end up that the AS clears up some of the discusses if there are any. They're all. I mean, there's no hurry to
Okay,
do them
all right.
because that's a cluster anyway. So
Yes.
Two-
Other than
two-
the desire to do it before you step down.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to put as much energy into this as I need to.
two small additions to that, which is that if the ISG still has a limit on pages per telechat,
How many is this now?
well,
Yeah.
at the moment we're at 120, but it'll go back down toward 100 when we.
Oh, well, that's easy. How big's the AS?
Not nearly as big.
The limit's 400 something, John. So what are you planning exactly?
I was worried about conflicts with other documents.
No.
So again, argument for dealing with this separately if we can.
So we won't do NFS that week then.
Right.
We're not going to do multi-part alternative with text and HTML version at the same time.
See if we can get a whole bunch of stuff out of Mailman at the same time, and I will own the whole telechat that week.
Well, it does help to concentrate the mind.
Burn out the rest of the ISG at the same time. Yeah, bring them when they're ready, and if we have to line them up for some reason, I can arrange that.
Okay.
Do we envision anything in the AS that would force us to reopen 21? Hopefully not.
No, but it's the type of discussion is, hope not, but it's just,
The whole security thing might require them to come together. They want to see that. They want to see that they're okay. This says this, and this says it at the same time.
yes.
Yeah, but that can equally well be done by pushing 5321 through, and then when they get the AS and say, "Well, you promised us the AS was going to say X, and it doesn't," then we or Murray have to make a decision as to whether to reopen the 5321 discussion or just battle that out of the part of the AS. But again, I think that's actually an argument for doing them separately if we can.
It's an argument for doing them what? One
Separately
at
if we can, one at a time.
Okay. Tentative suggestion is that chairs and editors and our AD will review once we think that SMTP is ready. We
Good.
can just assess at what stage, SMTP will be ready. We assess at how close to being done AS is, and then we'll make a decision.
Okay, that brings me to the thing for which I actually put my hand up,
Yep.
which is I think that given these discussions and the state of 5321, it'd be a good idea to try to schedule an interim for the first part of December before the holidays. If we don't need it, we don't need it. We cancel it.
Yes, that's partially, well, yeah, that's why I started talking about interim. I want to get assuming SMTP will be done by then, I want to get AS as close to being done. If not, if there is any interaction, we can discuss it then as well.
Right, and if we're still having problems with 5321, we're desperately going to need that meeting.
Okay, so first or second week of December.
Yeah, as long as it's not the first Monday, I should be good the rest of the month.
Yeah, just let's not let it slide in the holidays.
Okay.
Where that is any of this stuff that we can possibly get done before that.
My twisted sense of humor says we should do it on December 7th.
I missed the joke, but
Pearl Harbor.
That's a Saturday.
I
sorry.
definitely
Nope,
this is
Saturday. Nope.
okay.
procedural question for the chair, maybe the room. Should I spin up version 13 of the AS based on the minor feedback here today, or wait until we get some more text or reviews of the current issues? I don't care either way. I'm just asking what you prefer.
No preference. If it's easier just to deal with all the issues raised and get them out of your, yeah.
It's a matter of when people are going to have time to review. And
like me personally, not even as a chair, I like reviewing diffs. It's much easier for me than, and if I don't like the diff, then I can come back and say, you took out too much, or this doesn't look right, or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, if you do it, then I can actually close some tickets.
If I don't do it on the plane, I will do it early next week.
Perfect. Let's keep the ball rolling, and then yeah, we can see. Do you remember how many unaddressed tickets there are? Just like approximately.
The unaddressed ones are on here. I think,
Well, I know, but okay, hold on.
there was a issue 113, but I think it was a duplicate of this 97, perhaps.
So currently, mm, 11 tickets, but some of them are still because of the secondary review, which will be closed because they're addressed elsewhere. To be honest, I think on a very quick look, I think the only couple remaining are the ones for which way they decided to hold today, because or it's I need to send you text,
Right.
or John need to send you text, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's actually we are probably getting to the point where we should get into working group last call and actually.
Yeah, I need to fix the percent encoding.
Yeah.
Second bullet. I need to remove keywords and maybe craft some text around the display name thing. I think those are only two that we actually decided to make changes on here.
Yes,
I think the other ones are
and then
good to go.
we collectively need to have a look at whether TLS related discussions are addressed comprehensively in the document, whether anything is missing. But at this point, there is no suggested text, so I think that's kind of more okay.
Done.
Done. Thank you all. Any other issues?
I took a lot of notes, so can people please look at them and fix what I missed?
Yes, thank you. That would be great. Okay, thank you all. See you at the interim. I think that's what I've heard.
See you in December if we're unlucky enough to meet that.
Yes. Well, if we are lucky, maybe we'll have everybody has champagne in their own homes and we'll just drink on Zoom, something like that, to celebrate. All right. Thank you, John.
We still need application strong drink as a body part, but usually
Yes,
that's
sounds good. Right. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. You were saying that normative thing is something that has to, that must should not be normative must, because we can't test it. Pretty much. The previous comment, we had a must not, that was normative. We couldn't test, and then weasel words around it, and people were saying we should change this, we should not. So
Yes. If people were going to change it to non-weaselly words, yeah, because the weasel words were made what made it non-weaselly. Right. Yeah.
Melbourne
Yes.
to London.
So. Must not send date, and they would say that,
You shall be there.
you must send that, right? Oh, these, and.
See you, Lexi.
See you. Safe travels.
So-
Same to you.
Cheers, man. See you in,
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for hosting us.
No, I think it went all right.
Yeah.
Other than the Wi-Fi, but I think people forgave me, so that's
We're used to bad Wi-Fi. The
Yeah,
big
no.
places.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out all right. Yeah,
Yes.
people seem to like the food as well, so I was pleased about that.
Better than here.
I tend to agree. Yes, yes, that's true. All right,
See you in Bangkok.
all right. Safe travels.
Thank you.
If, for instance, I get a, mail from, data,
not
okay.
sooner. That's February, right? Yeah.
And it says, 421, I'm rebooting. And then
Yeah,
my
if-
message fails to
If Alex
appear on the
plans
other
a
end.
spot on DKIM
That's
2, I
not
probably should show
entirely
up.
100% proof that you failed to implement this, must not. Because you've blown away your entire queue simply because you rebooted, that would be poor form. On the other hand,
Alec is not just